Hello everybody, this is Maniac 4 Bricks, and I know vertical video is a vertical video. Let's just get that out of the way to start things out. It just makes it easier because I'm on mobile to show everything this way, so bear with me. Um, Today's July 1st, 2021, and I had known about this for a little bit beforehand. I want to say it's been brought up in the past few months every so often of the details of the BrickLink Designer Program. I think it was originally called the AFALT Designer Program in 2018, and they kind of did it a different way than they've done before. In the AFALT Designer Program in 2018, to celebrate 60th anniversary of the Lego brick, they had several models that were candidates and then became actual Lego sets through BrickLink, which is usually regarded as a reseller site, but does have some partnership with Lego on occasion. I don't know the specifics of everything in their partnerships, but just on the basic thing, fan-made Lego sets were available through there. And they've opened up the opportunity for this again for some of the ideas projects that did not make it through some of their previous results. A lot of them were able to make the 10,000 votes and be part of the review, but they weren't all picked. So a bunch of these were recycled into the designer program for this year. And it's kind of an invitational. What they basically did, and I wasn't actually aware of this whole process of it until literally a few minutes ago. I mean, I'd known about the thing itself, that, some of these ideas projects have a second chance, which is great and very generous. It didn't have to happen like that for any of them, but I'm glad it was available. But the actual process of how it went is a bit something I didn't understand. I had actually looked into this earlier today, but I didn't have a lot of time for it because I was on live stream celebrating my 9th anniversary on YouTube. And then after the live stream, I ate some lunch and had to get myself ready for work, so I literally didn't have any time in between to really hone in on this particular thing. So, pre-order now before they sell out, 41 days. And these are the 5 that are available for the pre-order. And these were all, like I said, previously projects on Lego Ideas that now have a second chance to become a real Lego set. Probably not to the same moniker of the idea sets. I would imagine if it's going to be similar to the AFALT Designer Program, I bought one of those, luckily, and I still haven't built it yet, but I'm still looking forward to building it. That set was shipped to me in a cardboard box with a couple of stamps here and there on the sides of them. They were still nicely packaged. I did open it, and it is nicely packaged inside and having paper instructions and everything. I would imagine this one being packaged in a similar way. It's probably not going to have like a particular design for the box itself for every single set. Although I think I've seen for some of the AFALT designer sets they did. I don't even know if mine had it like that or like in other people's copies. I'm not entirely sure. Or maybe it was because of a certain wave of them, like if they had to produce them at different times. I'm not entirely sure about that either. I'd have to consult more about that in another video or some other posting. But either way, I'm just trying to imagine of how these might arrive and if it's going to be in a similar style that they did for the AFALT Designer Program or if things would change. I think some people had said that instead of paper instructions, these are going to be digital. I don't know for sure if that's the case, but again, I would love to hear more information in the comments. I know that I'm a big Lego fan and I look into everything and I research, but there are some things that are just out there that I don't get all the details for, or it's just floating in a crowd of things, like a needle in a haystack kind of thing. So it's not always easy for me to find and keep in mind. So it says 10K Lego Ideas Projects Round 1 Crowdfunding. Pre-order and support your favorite design today. Only the first 5 designs to reach 3,000 pre-orders will be produced. Now this is a bit different than the usual 10K votes. I mean, these were ones that did get 10K votes on ideas, and that's a big threshold, but still achievable. And many ideas projects can get through that in every review period. But there's also a lot of them that don't make it onto the production line. So reaching 3,000 is highly attainable. It's something that's very accessible. They when I looked at this earlier on the desktop, I did notice that it had somewhere mentioned on the page about 30 countries that were eligible for this, and most of them being the more popular countries, the one that draws in more traffic to Lego products. And so that did mean not everyone literally around the world could vote for this. Some exclusions applied. I do remember looking through it earlier to at least see the page, and it only showed 4 out of 5 of these were filled in, with one just having like a question mark in a box. So it was still like, oh, some of these are supported fully, and some of them, there's still wiggle room. When I did, I was able to click on the support for one of these projects, and it said it will redirect me to the Lego.com page, and basically place it as a pre-order through the Lego website. That also meant that I had a VIP reward that was sitting in there, and it's still sitting in there, that I could have applied to that order, would have gone through, all the standard online shopping that Lego.com usually offers. The problem that I had was my card kept getting declined. I kid you not. I don't know why, and it's happened several times before, but I've also had times where it did work online. It was very selective about that. So that's more of a personal banking issue that I need to resolve sometime on my own. I've already had other issues with it outside of this, but unfortunately, yes, it did strike in this direction as well. Even though I thought it would still work around it, I had tried 1 or 2 things similar to it before, and still did not want to take it fully through. So I did not support any Lego Designer Program projects in here up to this point. As of recording this, late, 11 p.m. July 1st. I don't know if I'll even get to the bank, have something resolved, and then be able to do this in time. 41 days is still a good period, but we're also talking about each of these having, 5,000 copies made? Yeah, so further down here, it says 3,000 for the pre-orders, and then having a bar that would fill up, as more pre-orders came in. And it would say that it's fully funded, and then it would go to 5,000 when it sells out. Or sell at 5,000, you know what I mean. So the first one here, I'm not going to pronounce the names of each of these people because I'm not sure if I'm going to get the pronunciation correctly on them. But this one is Castle in the Forest. Here come the Forestmen. Time to go back to the castle theme with this amazing set filled with play features and tons of details. This one, as far as I had heard through social media earlier today, sold out almost instantaneously. Now, I had actually seen an email yesterday that this was coming up, and then one this morning that said it's now active. Like, okay, you can go on and find all these things. The strange part about it was you had to specifically search for it on BrickLink. It didn't show up as like a header on the homepage. Just typing BrickLink.com, it did not show up on there. Even though before it had advertised about it. And this was while it was still in the period of, accepting pre-orders and don't know which sets are going to be in there. Like I said, the 4 out of 5 thing. So I'm like, yeah, some things about this could have been done a little bit better and make it more vocal, a little bit more available. It's kind of felt like you had to be in the know to participate about it. Like, not a thing that the average person, the average consumer would know about. And to be fair, BrickLink is a very niche thing compared to other Lego programs and Lego shops. But it is still, something interesting. So I don't know how that would have affected things if it was a lot more public. And Lego loves their publicity. So, second project in here, Great Fishing Boat, also sold out. Here are the 12 pictures of the model, this time not renders, but real pictures of the fully brick-built model built. I hope you enjoy them, and I'll see you on June, and it drifts off. I'm sure there's a larger description to each of these, but this is just the first couple of sentences in each of them. I'm not going to go through every single one of them for now. I didn't mention before, but, the castle looks fantastic. I really do like the design of it, and it seems like a very proper model for a Forestman castle set, because in the classic era of Castle, Forestman had only a handful of them, and even at that, was not as elaborate as this because it was an older era of building. So this is a really nice design, and I'm sure that you could change around a few things for any of the factions. They include in here Black Falcons, but we did also have it recently in a Real Ideas set, in one that did go through, the Blacksmith Shop. So if you needed more of that, it's available. But you could easily swap a couple things around in here for other emblems, for other factions of Castle. I don't think it's going to be that difficult to do, and it honestly looks really nice. I don't know what the rest of it looks like around this. I haven't looked in detail about any of these today. I don't remember if I looked at most of them beforehand, even when they were on the LEGO Ideas website. But all in all, it's a fantastic model, and I think it really does deserve the credit, and it's very fair of getting, quickly sold out. I think that it makes a lot of sense that, this is an awesome project. I think they all are, but it does appeal. It's easy for me to understand that it appeals to a lot of people. As for the fishing boat, I think there's still a lot of really nice detail to this one. I think there's still a lot of consideration for the building techniques that go into it, especially along the bow, how all that is shaped up, and still keeping the blue and white trim to it is still very nice. It's not my personal kind of thing. I do like my LEGO, underwater stuff. Boat stuff is cool, but... But this is a giant fishing boat that I'm not going to get to appreciate as much as other people do, but I'm glad that they do. I'm glad that this is still a really nice model that others enjoy, and I don't know what else there could be of it, but I'm hoping that there's a lot more interior stuff that you could get out of this, that you could actually make out of it. The third one we have in here is called Sheriff's Safe. The lock works. Build your own secret code. And this one, it just says it's funded. So this is still in the stage in which pre-orders can be accepted. And it's still available for, claiming your copy out of the 5,000. Now, LEGO has done out of 5,000 for some products before. Sometimes they've done them. I think some of the BrickHeads, the LEGO Movie 2 BrickHeads, were out of 5,000, if I remember correctly. I have one of each kind, but I don't remember what the numbers were. But I've opened and built all of them because I wanted to build them. That's an issue for another day. I was not particularly a fan of how that was so limited run, because it seemed like the kind of thing they could have easily mass marketed and still, made acceptable for anyone to pick up. And the methods that they had done the limited run, they've done it with other things, and I just kind of had to play the game with it, even if I didn't fully appreciate the game. So this one says, notorious outlaw Billy the Brick has robbed Stub City and gotten away with... That's as far as we get on the side. It looks like there's a giant wanted poster on the side of the safe, which I guess would mean one really big tile with a sticker. I don't know. I'm actually not sure. I probably should have looked that up as well. If these aren't Ideas projects, will they have stickers over prints? Because traditionally, Ideas projects have printed material for any of the, designs or decals or whatever. I don't recall the last time that they had a sticker sheet in any of the Ideas sets, if ever. So that's something to consider as well. If any of the details on there are going to be stickers or prints. Again, I'm not an expert, but I would love to learn more about this. And I am curious about the build your own secret code part of it. I mean, I see numbers that are on the knob itself. I want to say that goes to 5 or 6, given the spacing between them, but I don't know for sure. But other than that, I don't know how much to make out of this one. I'm sure it's a fine model and a cool mechanism to it, but it's kind of hard for me to get excited about this thing because LEGO has made giant safes before. Granted, they didn't have a customizable lock, but they still had a working safe, you know? Lego City, I remember years and years ago, had something like that where, yeah, it was very basic on the inside of how the lock mechanism worked, but it did work. It was something that I could actually close and keep closed and still had ample space. It wasn't as big as this one, but it still had the right idea. And I'm going to assume that people like this one not only for the function of it, but also the Wild West aesthetic of it. I mean, I know that people definitely gather behind the castle one because they would love to see more castle return to Lego, and that is something that I would like to see in the future as well, that it's not completely forgotten. This could be in the same vein of, oh, people want to see Wild West come back. It's much more niche, but possible. I don't know if it actually will affect it for either of these or any of the 5 of Lego's internal product design, if they're actually going to pull anything forward for outside of the ideas or outside of the BrickLink stuff. But, you know, one should consider how these were basically pulled. And the Wild West stuff, it's not a lot, but there's not a little either. Like what Lego's done before with Wild West, it basically boils down to, I want to say 10 to 15 sets or so in the 90s, and some of them were actually released in the early 2000s. And they did have some variety to them. They had cowboys, bandits, they had cavalry, they had a fort, they had Native American looking figures, they had, a bunch of things that could go and interact with each other. They're kind of interesting for its time, I will give it that, but then they didn't have anything else unless it was just a one-off minifigure in a collectible minifigures blind bag or something like that. And then they had the Lone Ranger around 2013, 2014 or something like that. So many years afterwards, almost a decade after anything Wild West related came out. But Lone Ranger is a licensed theme, so it plays into, obviously, that part of it. I picked up one of the Lone Ranger sets, and I was always considering the other ones because of just having the Wild West look. Regardless of knowing the characters from either the old TV show or the Disney movie or whatever, I at least liked the aesthetic that went behind it. And I do feel that way with some Lego themes if they're licenses, where it's like, okay, I don't even know what this thing is based off of that much, but I do like the look of this venue, like the Overwatch sets and the villa that they had in one of the larger sets, the El Dorado Showdown. So, that kind of stuff. That's where I go with it. I don't know if everybody's thinking the same way with this, or they're just kind of, different things going around. Then the next one we had was Pursuit of Flight, which is funded and still accepting pre-orders, under 5,000. This small kinetic sculpture is designed to celebrate the history and wonder of flight. It features several different types of aircraft from the early days of aviation, and it carries on from there. This one I liked as a kinetic model from JK Brickworks, who already does some fantastic work and has had, up to this point, if I recall correctly, 2 of his designs become official Lego Ideas sets. I know it's the maze, and I'm trying to remember what the other one was. I think it was the pop-up book, if I correct me if I'm wrong. But I have the maze. I got that long after discontinuation, but luckily for not overinflated price. The pop-up book I've had in person and gotten to play with back and forth, but wasn't interested enough to buy the whole thing for myself, for my own collection. This one does look good. I will give it that. But, and it does function very well. He does a full video about the Pursuit of Flight before it became an idea set. And I think I do like the variety of the planes themselves, that it's easy to, switch them around for whichever one that you wanted to have flying. But it's also a little bit basic. I'm sorry to say this, but it serves one purpose and one purpose only. And that's something that, for me personally, would not carry for long. You have the crank that goes on the back of it, and there's a gear mechanism that's built inside of it to basically make these planes veering back and forth, like left and right from each other. I think it's like as one moves left, the other moves right, and vice versa. And that's a cool function in its own. I still like how different pieces are used in here for building techniques and such, but you're doing one basic thing with it. Compared to other kinetic models that JK Brickworks has made, and ones that have become actual Lego sets, like I said, with the pop-up book, it kind of is, again, that one-purpose kind of thing, but at least offers two different stories that you can play with it. Kind of like this one, where it's like you can mix and match a couple things around while still using the main function. And I would say the maze is a very similar way, but that one I'd say has more mileage. Having played with it in person myself, it gives you a lot more opportunity and a lot more options for how you can play with it, where you could literally design your own mazes out of this thing in different arrangements, in different patterns and everything, different styles that you can make out of it, which you could probably do with a lot of these other ones as well. But that one has a larger grid to it. There's a larger area that you could, customize. Whereas this one, it kind of has to work within certain parameters. The pop-up book was also a one that had certain parameters to it. Otherwise, it wouldn't close the book entirely. But there were still fantastic ways that people did different things on their own with it. The maze also gives it a little more mileage because, you have two levers that are moving back and forth, or two knobs that are moving back and forth, but there's skill involved with that. You're actually trying to maneuver between things to get from one end of the maze to the other and not avoid any of the holes that are in between. So, in my opinion, personally, that's one of the more finer models that he's made, and I'm glad that it's become an ideas set, but compared to these other ones, they're still good, just not my kind of thing, or something that I could see using for a long period of time with embracing it all that time, you know what I mean? But I still appreciate that it is at a lower price than most of the other ones. I mean, the pop-up book was about $70 when it released. I want to say the maze was $70 or maybe above. This one is $55. That's fine. And I don't know for sure if this thing is motorized or intended to be motorized, but I could easily see someone modifying it a bit in order to make that happen. So there's nothing wrong with that. But again, with the motor, you're only getting so much out of it. You're basically making this thing move faster. And you're probably going to have to be careful of what kind of motor you use with it, because it's going to, it might move too fast and something might fly off. It's not going to have enough... it's going to get whiplash, basically. So, it's still cool for what it is, but for now, I'm not interested in this. And the fifth one, and we'll talk about why this one's interesting. The fifth one, I don't know the actual pronunciation of it. I'm going to assume it's cockapoo, but I could be wrong about that. It's not a bird that I'm familiar with, but I do like that this is a very stylish bird. It stands out very well, and in some cases, might actually work very nicely as a piece to go with the birds set. There was a LEGO Ideas bird set early on, several years ago, and they also had internally a World Birds Hub set or something like that. But if you're lucky enough to get that would be cool. I'm unfortunately not lucky enough for that, but I at least have the Ideas birds. I think this one would be a good companion piece to go with that one, because it's replicating something in real life and with great style and a lot of consideration for how all the feather work is done. The shaping is really well done, and there's some neat building techniques I see peeking through on different corners of this thing. So I do appreciate this for a model. And I'm also very partial to birds. My family has always enjoyed birds, and they really enjoyed when I had the LEGO Ideas birds brought home to them. That one I got, again, after discontinuation, around $50 or something at a trade show. And it was sealed. It still had all the pieces, instructions, everything like that, never built before. It got my sister so enthusiastic about it that she wanted to build one of the birds right away. And she's not even a Lego fan currently. Like she doesn't build with it on her own. She doesn't build with me on a, you know, on any regular basis, which is fine. I'm not opposed to that. Not everybody has to build with Lego, and not everybody's gonna have it as their thing. But that was one of the most recent cases that she wanted to build that. She wanted to see the thing for herself. I think she actually built both. No, 2 out of 3 of them. I built the Robin, which is actually one of the smallest of them in that set. She built the Hummingbird and the Blue Jay, which I was like, oh, you're not just building one of them, but you're building 2 of them, and they're the more like intricate ones. And I was like, that means a lot. I highly regard that one. I've even done a video where I talk about my top 10 Lego Ideas sets. I put that one with high marks on it for all these different reasons. So that's why I'm really interested in this bird, but not sure if I would buy it. But I still appreciate that as a model. And it says the cockapoo, with the Latin name for it, is an iconic flightless nocturnal parrot that is only found in New Zealand. And yeah, I'm not familiar with this bird personally, even though my family does love birds. It's mostly about the bird watching, but and I think we've only had parakeets, like personally, but and I think we went to one animal rescue center that had birds with it, but mostly as like a walkthrough kind of thing, not to pick up any of them. But it was still a cool thing, and still cool to see that emulated here in Lego form. But I still like everything that's going into this. I also do like the technique that's used for the feet, which is different from the other birds. And I think it still works out very well. I don't think it's the same designer, so it makes sense it would have different techniques, but it's still a model I can appreciate just by the look of it. And this one still available for pre-orders, and says it's $80. It looks pretty big. So I would say that even if it stood next to the Ideas Bird set, it's going to look pretty big. I don't know if this bird is bigger than most. Like, as a parrot, I don't know if it's bigger than a blue jay or a robin or a hummingbird, if it's in any sense of scale with those Ideas birds, or even the World Hub birds. It'd be interesting. I'm sure somebody will have something available for that, to take a look at that. I'm not going to be, for now, I'm not the person to do so, but still, well done on that. Now, personally, here's where I got to go with this, because I know I already scrolled to it, and I'm already hearing people with their groans or the here we go again eye rolls. I did support this project when it was on Ideas. I at least tried for what opportunities were available to see this thing through. I've seen this designer's work before, during, and after this model, and I still think they have impressive, building techniques all the way around, whether or not related to BIONICLE. Even though I supported this project on Ideas, it did not win, clearly. And it got the second life. It got the privilege. I want to bring that up again. This program, for all of these entries, is a privilege to get a second life for different projects. It didn't have to be that way. There's been plenty of years of rejects where it did not happen that way. The fact that this is an open opportunity should be appreciated and respected. With that being said, I was not able to fund this project. I was not able to place a pre-order, as I mentioned earlier, having issues with actually sending it through personally. And here's how it's marked: not fully funded and unavailable. The project was not one of the first 5 to receive 3,000. No, I didn't want to click on the page. Hold on. Go back. This project was not one of the first 5 to receive 3,000 pre-orders. For this and other projects, I don't know what it means. I don't know if it's going to run through any other phases of it. But even so, again, I am glad that there was a Second Life opportunity for this and other projects going down further. To briefly go over it, The Legend of the Bionicle, Bionicle Legends, his official name. Gathered friends, listen again to our Bionicle Legends. Celebrate Bionicle's anniversary by reliving the most influential moments of its story. This is I for some reason I was quickly able to find a video documenting about this project today. I'm sure it was one of those things where it's like, oh, I follow this who follows this, and they posted about it. Or it might have been in the project itself page. I'm not entirely sure. But either way, I do appreciate that he even made a video. And I don't know if that's also... I want to check just briefly if it was a thing for everybody to make a video. Okay, so they do have a video for the Cockapoo as well. Pursuit of Flight, I think that makes sense because he's already had a video publicly about this. I don't know if it was like a brand new video to show like, hey, here's the designer program part of it. So yeah, this is the part that I was talking about before. Crowdfunding ends on August 11th. And this is where it says about selecting a shipping country, that you can scroll through the 30 different options. You'll only be charged if this project is one of the first 5 projects to receive 3,000 pre-orders, and only once the product is shipped to you. You estimate the product will ship in January 2022. Maximum pre-order quantity per person is 5. That is something I also noticed, is that there is a max quantity of 5. And it is good to know about the pre-order kickback kind of thing, because I think that's kind of legalese. That's kind of the thing you need to do. It's like, you can't charge people for a product that isn't going to be produced. It's like, okay, you gave us your money for this thing and we're not making it. It's like, no, that's a thing that shouldn't happen, and I'm glad it's not happening. Designer program sets will feature digital building instructions provided by the mobile app. Okay, makes sense. So it talks about parts info, the colors, the current status, and the more thorough description about each of these, which is available on each page. So they do have a video for this as well. I didn't mean to click on the video. My mistake. Right. So, as a Bionicle fan, I am happy to engage in the opportunity when presented. However, I couldn't do it this time, but according to this bar, I'm assuming it wasn't even close. Like, my support for this project, for 1 copy or 2 copies, probably wasn't going to push it any further, to be honest. And it was a thing that people were following with throughout the day. I saw 1 or 2 things on social media after my live stream where people were saying the bird was beating out Bionicle Legends. And this is coming from someone who was a Bionicle fan, so it's like, okay. I will go to my tweet about this, actually, because I did see of people saying, yay or nay about the project itself. So, if all you Bionicle fans don't buy the set and get it funded to 3,000 units, never complain about Bionicle being dead ever again. This is your fault. And he links to the page of the actual project. Side note, this is not a knock on the designer in any way. I feel bad this won't come to fruition for their sake alone. And the discussion goes even further from this particular thread, but I at least want to acknowledge this, because again, this is one of the earlier instances I saw of this buzz mid-live stream, and I'm like, you know what? That's a fair point. And this is coming from someone who sort of understands Bionicle from younger years, tries to understand the Bionicle community currently, And I've tried to explain to him as someone who's kind of intermediary. I'm not a super fan, but I did grow up with it. And I still appreciate it to this day. I still enjoy some different things made out of it, or some of the things about it that I didn't first know growing up with it, because I didn't know everything, and I still don't know everything about BIONICLE. Whether it's the story, the products, whatever. So, I do respect his opinion here. I do respect, even if it sounds harsh, it's very fair. It's the kind of thing that, yes, BIONICLE fans have been clamoring for something new for a long time after it was canceled in 2010. And the fact that 2010 existed was a blessing on its own. From what I had heard, internals said, we want to finish off BIONICLE, but we want to do it in a way that kind of honors its legacy, because it was a longer lasting theme for an in-house LEGO theme, and it was obviously a financial gain for LEGO that pushed them out of their bankruptcy early on and became a mass media, franchise, with all different kinds of books, movies, music, everything, video games, everywhere. Basically getting that push as big as Pokemon, back in the day. So, as somebody who grew up with that and somebody who understands that, I totally get that there's drive for more BIONICLE stuff, people who grew up with it or people who want to see more out of it. But I also can understand we got a lot of stuff. 2010 was a blessing, like I said. It could have ended 2009. It could have ended 2008 even. And we had it again as a reboot in 2015 to 2016. It was available in retail stores. I remember seeing it in Toys R Us. I remember seeing it in Target. I guarantee it was in Walmart. And it lasted only that short period of 2 years. It had a few waves. It had a little bit of publicity through different events, social media outreach, a couple of things, a little bit of promotional stuff in between, whether it's the shop at home stuff or Comic-Con exclusive kind of stuff. So there was publicity for it. There was actually material made, and it did have some media pushing with Scholastic books, webisodes, and a Netflix show. Even though I didn't fully support it right out the gate, I was still happy that it was back. It kind of reinvigorated my interest in BIONICLE. I want to say that. And I will elaborate a lot more about this on another video. But I did buy some of them, early on and get a feel for this newer building system. It was not going to be built like the original ones, bar none. It was a reboot in every way, shape, and form. And I respect that, because they're actually really good sets. They are actually better building sets and action figures than the old ones were for 10 years of design changes prior to that. So I get that. I didn't buy all of them in their existence before LEGO decided to cancel it prematurely, but I did buy them before they went up increasingly in value. Shortly after the cancellation, there were a bunch of them that I didn't buy from different waves that I did pick up in Toys R Us. And I did have one or two that I had to buy on the black market afterwards because they were sold out. But that's honestly not that bad. I was able to complete the retail collection of them pretty easily. And I was fortunate enough. At the same time I got the Ideas Bird set at a trade show, I also got from the same vendor one of the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive or New York Comic-Con exclusive promotions related to BIONICLE. So, I'm happy with that. Do I want to get all of them? Probably not, because they're not easy to find and they're hella expensive, and it's not usually a thing that I go to. But I'm glad that it was still there. I'm glad that it still happened. I'm glad that we still had another 20 products or so of material. Actually, probably even more than that. 12, 8, 24. I want to say almost 30. 30 retail products for BIONICLE were available in 2015 and 2016. If you don't count any of the promo stuff, maybe you could count a little bit of that, but the point is, BIONICLE had a second chance. BIONICLE had a second life. It could have come back. And not everybody bought into it. Not everybody was interested. Not everybody was up for the aesthetic of it. And it canned. It canned prematurely. LEGO usually plans out for 3 years of their independent properties. It canceled prematurely. So it must have been real bad. The fact that people are still begging for BIONICLE to return, even after that, when they blew their chance, I don't have a lot of sympathy for that. I'm sorry. My stance on it basically since 2016 is that it's had a good run. I'm glad we had some good stuff. I'm glad we had some improvements in 2015 and 2016. But I'm okay leaving it where it is. There's still a lot that can be absorbed from previous eras, and there's still stuff that I can enjoy outside of it. I'd say the only way that BIONICLE is still quote-unquote alive, it's no longer in the company's hands, like making products out of it. Instead, for me personally, BIONICLE has never died because the fans keep it going. The fans are still creating their own things out of the parts, or relating to the stories, or expanding from the stories. If it's fan fiction, I don't care, but it's still in conversation. If people give up on BIONICLE, if people said, hey, it was cool while it lasted, but I'm not interested in it anymore, which I did have for some time, for a few years actually, if that was everybody's mindset, and nobody talked about BIONICLE anymore, nobody built with BIONICLE anymore, that's when it truly dies. And I know that there's a great Vsauce video that kind of talks about that on a philosophical perspective of what makes a person truly dead. There's the actual mortal death, that they're no longer breathing, that they're no longer moving, that they're no longer communicating, and everything like that. But then there's the legacy kind of death, in which they're not remembered. They're no longer in anyone's consciousness, that there's nothing of record left, or new record created out about them. Pixar also has leaned into that philosophy on some of their films, things like Inside Out. So it's a kind of thinking that's been in my mind as well, not just for BIONICLE, but for literally anything and anywhere, even outside of LEGO itself. So I totally understand this tweet, and I understand it, so I even retweeted it or quote tweeted it or whatever the word is. Facts. As someone who is a BIONICLE fan and did buy the sets during the 2015-2016 waves, this is a privileged opportunity to have a second chance on this project. Nothing was deserved to happen. Either take it or leave it. Be grateful it was offered, gift horse in the mouth, and such. I didn't have enough characters to write the whole phrase, but it was like, you get the idea. I'm basically repeating the same message in a few different ways, but the fact that the Ideas Project happened was great. It got full support in no time at all for 10K votes. Did it make it through the Ideas round? No, it did not. It did not get into the review, or it did not get accepted from the review. And that could have been it. That could have been where the breaks lie. And I would understand that. I was like, you know what? I'm going to vote because the opportunity is here. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And it didn't. And I was okay with that. I wasn't going to cry any tears or anything like that. I was perfectly content with the idea that, okay, this is niche, but not going to happen. But I still like it as a model. It's nothing against the model itself or what it means to people. It just doesn't mean enough to warrant making it a full set. Then we had the 90th anniversary, where there was a poll among 30 different LEGO themes and sub-themes, a lot of different castle and space things that were subdivided, and BIONICLE was included in there. They didn't have to put BIONICLE in there. LEGO chose to put BIONICLE in there, and again, it's on the ideas page. That didn't have to happen. I could think of what ways it could be celebrated, what kind of model could be created out of it, but we're talking about LEGO here. We're talking about a medium which you can create this stuff yourself. If it doesn't exist as a LEGO set, you can build it. You have the pieces. The only thing you might not have is an injection molding machine, but even then, people do have 3D printers. So, give or take, it's possible. If it doesn't happen from the head honcho in Denmark, it can still be made. That's where people make their own things. That's why people go to shows and make creations and displays. And that's fine. That's fine to make those things. And it's fine to accept that the big company isn't going to make something tailored to everyone. That's where you build your own thing. That's where you have the pieces and you can put it together yourself. Perfectly fine. So I, again, pitched myself into the voting for the 90th anniversary. Just because the opportunity was there. Just to see if it would go anywhere. And in the second round or so, BIONICLE still made it through. And I decided to vote once again for BIONICLE. I kept my vote secret, but I think it was still obvious to many people that's what I was going to pick. And I tried to make a joke about it just to lighten the mood, where it's like, you know what? Let's see what happens. I'm not here to, I'm not throwing all my chips in like an all or nothing. If BIONICLE doesn't make it as a project or it doesn't make it as a 90th set, then I'm never going to buy a LEGO set or touch a brick again. No, I'm not going to be that irrational. I'm going to still enjoy the medium itself. I don't enjoy corporate, but that's for other reasons, and this is not really adding on to those reasons. But then again, not everybody is going to enjoy a corporate perspective or executive perspective versus, consumer-friendly stuff. But I digress. So, we don't know what the result of the 90th anniversary set was. And we won't know for another year. In 2022, that's when it'll announce, this is our set. That's it. Not like, there's a third round of voting to narrow it down. No. They already did the narrowing down. From 30 to 3, I think. Maybe 4, I forget exactly. And then the next one, here's the set. If you don't like it, don't buy it. That's the other beautiful thing. This is a product. This is a purchase. You don't have to make the purchase. Nobody's going to mail it to your doorstep and say, you must build this thing, like your life depended on it. And that goes for literally anything in the product category of LEGO. There are things that I'm not a fan of. There are things that I'm not interested in. Even if I like Star Wars, I'm not going to buy every Star Wars set. Because there's some I'm just not interested in. Or it just doesn't appeal to me. Or I already have something older that's kind of like it. And that doesn't well enough for me. Or maybe I do buy something. Maybe I do buy my 4th or 5th land speeder because there's an improvement to it. Or I want to see if there's a different building technique used. Or whatever the case may be. Just throwing out hypotheticals here. So, again, I shoot my shot. I do my best. Bank wouldn't let me. So I couldn't support this project, this second opportunity that didn't have to happen for any of these projects. Did not have to happen. LEGO could have just wiped their hands clean and said, we voted, this is what's an ideas project, everybody else can go home. Because they've said that before, in different terms, but basically. The fact that this happened should be respected. The fact that this was available should be appreciated. We're not going to win everything. We're not going to make everything a LEGO set. But we can still make our own things. The idea that I had for a 90th anniversary set for BIONICLE, it's still not a Lego set, and I still won't know for another year, but that's fine, because I could still build it myself. It might take me a little bit more time in engineering and gathering parts, but it would still be a cool thing. It would still be something I'd be proud to call my own, and I'm glad that I have at least the creativity to think up things on my own. Insert Lego movie here. I will say that I've been in a transitional phase with Lego for quite some time, not just because of BIONICLE, but in general, between building Lego sets and building Lego creations. I am very used to not having the time to build Lego creations and not knowing exactly what parts I have available to build Lego creations in the way I want to. I hate to keep compromising on things or taking forever to find that one piece and only to give up on it, or whatever the case may be. Or just having something structurally intact only to fall apart because I put something in the wrong spot that wasn't intact. But with that being said, I still build from time to time on my own, items, my own creations. I'm still going to be displaying them, when Lego conventions come back around soon. So there's that. That being said, a lot of time in between has been building straight up Lego sets and keeping them pretty much as they are. I've only had a little bit over time where I've modified Lego sets, and that's basically down to this pirate roller coaster doesn't come with a motor or a chain lift. So I'm going to add one in, and I made a video about it, and it's one of my best performing videos on YouTube. It's not the first one that had a motorized function, but I'm glad that it got other people's attention. It's something I did for myself and wanted to share, and other people did enjoy the process of it, the explanation behind it, the parts list that I provided, and they built it for themselves. And I want to do another video of that one to increase or to improve the design, because I know there were a couple flaws I had afterwards because I didn't test it long enough, and I'm like, you know what? I want to make this better. And there are a couple other Lego sets like that, where I want to improve something on it that I didn't like at first, that I wanted to add a function to it that wasn't there already. I've seen other people adapt Lego sets into different color schemes, into different themes entirely, from Ninjago to Chima, or whatever the case may be. It's cool. It's great. And I'm glad that exists. It's like the hybrid between building a Lego set and building an original creation, because it's modified. You're making a new design out of something already existing, but to a personal benefit or to many people's benefit. It can be done. So I am looking forward to doing more of that sometime in the future. I've even built some Lego sets recently that lean into that. When those will be, I don't know, but that's the thing. I need to get back into that creative mindset. I have a lot of creative ideas all the time, but they just rattle in my head. They never go into anything else. They're never put to paper or brick or whatever the art medium might be. And I want to get back to that. I could still build the Lego sets authentically, from the box or whatever, but I still want to open that door. I still want to keep it available that, hey, I could still build my own stuff. I don't have to literally build every Lego set I have and just make a town that's just about the Lego sets. I still build my own stuff. I actually revived one of my older creations and improved its structure. So I do like that, and that's the thing that I've been going through lately as well. But for BIONICLE, my mindset has changed quite a bit. Where, I might have at one point been I want to see BIONICLE come back in some way, but that was a while ago. That has died down significantly. And for now, I'm just happy enjoying other people. I'm just happy enjoying other people that grew up with BIONICLE, that can still talk about it, that still build fantastic stuff on it. And to be honest, building BIONICLE stuff is way easier when you already build Technic. And that's an area that I'm very weak in, but I've been working on over time. I've had it with the 9th anniversary of my channel, the 8th anniversary, building Technic on live stream and Mindstorms, and trying to get more acquainted with a side of Lego that's always been there, that I've built seldom, and still enjoy to some extent. There's still good things to come from that, And hopefully, again, start those creative juices again. I've built Bionicle mocks in the past and using a lot of Technic, like more than just the core Bionicle parts variety. That building system is kind of finite, but some people do work around it, or they'll need to accentuate it with things like Technic or System or some other part of Lego's parts inventory. All the things that they are able to that are compatible with each other to make it better. And that's the kind of thing that I'm still trying to keep in my head. It's like, okay, I do want to build, I do want to still engage with Bionicle, but I know that I can understand and I can look into the flaws. I am not looking past them with rose-tinted glasses or anything like that and saying it's the best theme, Lego wouldn't be here without it. I mean, those are facts, but people can take that too far out of context. And I believe that there is some dialing back and realizing that Bionicle as a franchise had its run. I'm not saying is dead. It had its fair share in the spotlight. And I appreciate for what it did, and I appreciate for what I grew up with. But much like Pokemon, I have to move on. Or I can at least admire it from a distance. I can still talk with other people about it, but there's only so much I can do with it myself. And I don't mind that the mothership is not the place for it. If I'm not getting that information from there. If I will definitely enjoy the fan stuff. And I have enjoyed the fan stuff at other conventions and whatnot. So, yeah, no problems with that. I have no issues with the Bionicle Legends project underperforming, not fully funding, however you want to phrase it, but at least be respectful. Be kind, either you're a Bionicle fan or not. Either way, be kind to each other. That's all I'm asking for. I don't want any infighting for any of the Lego themes, whether or not past, present, or future of, their spot or their place in Lego. I mean, I've had the same token with space and castle. I think they're, integral parts of Lego. They are definitely, part of Lego's history and a long-standing part of the Lego history. I would definitely like to see it represented further, but it may have a different path to it. I mean, lately, Castle hasn't had that much since Nexo Knights, and I will side on, yes, we have Castle, but it's a different kind of Castle than we were used to, and after a drought with no Castle for several years, it wasn't the right time for it. It could have gone down better at a different time once you had a traditional Castle theme already back in the ethos. Yeah, that would have been much more palatable. People would still reject it, yeah, fine. But at least they'd have an option for something else, at present. And there is another thing currently in 2021 for Lego Creator, there is a castle build. So people are definitely on board for that. Pirates also had a build last year in Creator. And I do like Pirates. I do like it coming around every so often. Don't need it every single year, but this is really cool. And some point, I would like to pick up that. There's also the Ideas project of related to Pirates, and the Castle one. The said before the blacksmith. Yeah, exactly. So we're good. And space, yeah, we don't have classic space. That's fine. We had Benny in the Lego Movie. We had Benny's Spaceship. We've had Benny's Space Squad from Lego Movie 2. We've had a couple of other smaller classic space referential things from not only the Lego movies, but outside of it. The 60th anniversary had some references to classic space. It comes around. There are still seeds of it. But to have that particular niche aesthetic of classic space is a lot to ask for. There is still plenty of space-related and sci-fi-related Lego out there that doesn't have the Star Wars branding to it. Regardless of what Star Wars has become as part of the sci-fi element of Lego, beside the point. You still have it in Creator. You still have it in Classic. You still have it in City. There's the realistic, versions of space. I think that's fine. And again, if Lego doesn't make it, you can. That's the main point I want to get across for any of the themes. And I could literally talk for hours about every past discontinued Lego theme that at one point I'm sure I wanted to come back in some way. There are even Lego themes that never existed that I've always wanted to be a thing. There's one or two that did become a thing. I've always wanted Lego SpongeBob, and then 2006, boom, we got SpongeBob sets for a couple years. I'm happy with that, and I'm fine that it doesn't happen anymore because I'm glad it happened at all. That's the thing. Don't smile because it's over. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Dr. Seuss. Yeah, I'm quoting Dr. Seuss now in a Lego video. I don't care. This is fine. Lego is a medium where you could build it yourself, whether it's of something that already happened or something that is yet to happen, or something that you just think of on your own terms. Embrace that. And I will embrace that as well, myself. Now, we had another JK Brickworks project that also was part of Ideas, Particle Accelerator. And this one, it's got a cool premise to it. But it is a bit niche. So I'm not surprised that this was looked over. I am surprised, however, that this was only $100. I thought it would have been much more. In fact, I even thought the BIONICLE one was going to be much less. But it is pretty beefy on parts, even if it's in a smaller hexagonal shape. So, if it's from a parts perspective, I can understand that. But this one, I had thought, again, parts perspective, it was going to be much more. And it is a cool premise. There is a cool video for it on YouTube prior to its release, but also, for this occasion as well. And it says, future crowdfunding projects. All remaining designs are still eligible for future crowdfunding opportunities. Visit this section for updates. Now, the way that this thing was advertised in the first place, I'm glad that I got email notification about it, but day before, that's a little too soon. Lego did much more advertising for LegoCon prior to its premiere than they did for this. And to be fair, yeah, that was a much more public virtual event, but this is still something that I feel like could be advertised a little bit better, could have been advertised a bit sooner. And knowing how other Lego fans operate, when something is about to be released on the Lego website, people will stay up. They will get up early, get to the computer, keep refreshing the page until the option to buy is available, and click right away because they know it'll sell out. They know they'll miss an opportunity if they sleep in or anything else happens. I've had day one purchases very few times before from Lego directly. I've done a pre-order for Super Mario, but it arrived after the sets were available in stores. So I just bought the one in stores and then returned the other one because I thought by the pre-order it was going to pre-arrive. I mean, at least I would have secured a spot, and it gave me the comfort that, hey, if this thing does sell out in stores or online, on public day, then at least I have one in my name. But when I saw it in the stores, I knew that, yeah, it's fine. I could just pick this up right now and I could go home and build it and play with it. So the pre-order, was a safety blanket, but was not going to last long term. But I feel like with something like this, definitely people would have stayed up early enough to get ready for the click, to get onto that, especially with the castle selling out, from what I've heard, very quickly. It doesn't give me any information and statistics of how fast any of these sold out or were funded, but still something interesting to consider. All right, so we have 19 more projects. I'm going to look through them as quick as I can. I was going to say Super Troopers. Space Troopers. The swooshable modular starship of childhood dreams meets classic sci-fi and the spirit of Space Troopers in a fresh take on the Kuzo classic. So this has what seems to be a little bit of the classic space vibe between different colors, but it still becomes its own thing. It's still its original model of a modular dropship, which I think is a cool idea. Modular dropships don't come around that much in LEGO form, in any themes, but when they work, they work. I do like that. I do like the opportunities that this could offer. And this is one of those that has a very clean design to it. It's not my kind of thing just looking at it initially, but I still respect what is shown here. I like the asymmetry. I like the rocket boosters. It looks like that they can move. I would imagine that they would be able to turn when the thing is up in the air, but maybe, at standing vertical when it's in the drop-off or pickup stage. I do like that there are options of what can be picked up, not just one thing. You have another thing in the background, and these little robot units, that's interesting. I don't know if there are minifigures with this, but it seems like it could be big enough to fit a minifig in there. So, it's cool. But for now, that's where I stand with it. 1950s Diner. The classic 50s style retro diner is recreated in detail as a playable display set. The idea was to create a diner with the classy build quality of the modular series. I know that's the next word. That's usually how it would go. So this one appeals to me. I like the aesthetic of this one. I like the building techniques to go into it. I don't have a lot of the modulars. If you count Ninjago City and Ninjago City Docks, I have 3 modulars. The third one being Parisian Restaurant. I got that recently, but I still have to build it. But I digress. Modular building isn't usually my thing because it's big. It takes a lot of space. Regardless of how much time it takes to build, it just takes a lot of space on tables that I may not have space to put a lot of them. I don't know if the haunted house from 2020 counts as a modular, because you can't really separate it top to bottom. It's more of opening up like a storybook, hinges on the sides. But it is still in scale, I guess. You could pair it with the other ones and it won't look completely out of place. It's kind of like the old haunted house from Monster Fighters. It can stand on a 32 by 32 base plate footprint, but it's not made to be like the other sets. So take it or leave it as you will on that definition. But even without the other modular sets, I still think this one looks impressive. I still like the way this thing is put together, and I think I would still enjoy the design overall around on it. I would actually want to pull this one up separately and look more into detail of what the interior is like. I do love me a good diner. I live in New Jersey. We have a lot of diners, and I do like this style of diner, where it really does stand out and it really captures the essence of what people think of like a classic diner. So I am definitely on board for this. I am definitely curious how this will fare, and hopefully I can hear of its period if it gets into the running, because it says it's test building. The other one said digital modeling. For all I know, maybe some of these won't make it through. Maybe some of them will be, for lack of a better term, disqualified from the next round of it. Or it's like, oh, these building techniques don't work out. Oh, these pieces aren't available. Oh, this is out of budget, or whatever the case may be. It might not even be a model. It might not even get a chance for the running. So again, a privilege on privilege on privilege. We had the privilege to vote on this for ideas. We had the privilege that it could be part of the review process. We had the privilege that it could get a second chance on the aftermarket with BrickLink, even though it's still tied with LEGO. But even more so, we had the privilege that it could be a running contestant. That it actually made it through the test building stage of it to be selected, This is what I'm trying to say, is like, work with that. Alright, this one, I don't have my face on here, but my eyes bugged out. Train Station Studgate. Hello, traveler. Welcome to Studgate, the main station of the city with the largest number of visitors, where thousands of minifigures pass through this station. This is in a test building stage as well, but this is enormous. Like, I am actually terrified on the concept of this being a real Lego set. And assuming that it doesn't have a lot of design changes in the process, this is awfully terrifying in size. And kind of in scale. Lego Ideas projects don't get this big. They do not have a piece count like this does. I don't even know what the piece count is, but by looking at little pieces here and there, and then looking at the whole thing, you're like, wow, that's a lot of pieces. There are even some of these pieces I haven't seen up to this point in other projects, like these garage doors that are used for the curved windows. I don't want to say there hasn't been, but I think there's been maybe at least one Lego Ideas set that has a train incorporated with it. I'm going to look up real quick. Give me a moment. I don't want to look like a complete goofball. Lego Ideas train. I'm going to check just real quick. Because I thought there was one, but I could be mistaken. No, not that. Well, let me see. Lego Crocodile Locomotive. I didn't realize I was going for over an hour. So my apologies, but also my congratulations for anyone who stuck out this long and all the ranting and everything I said. Okay, so this is different. The Crocodile Locomotive. So, since 2020, Lego has revised their box art for different Lego themes and sub-themes. And it's confusing to me now when they do creator stuff that's on an expert level. They don't call it creator expert anymore. And they're lucky if they call it 18 plus even. As the name of the theme, I should say. But they also use the same box art style for ideas projects now. And that confuses me, personally. It probably doesn't make much difference to the average consumer, but for someone like me who's trying to remember what's been an ideas project, I'm honestly at a loss sometimes. So this one I thought was an ideas project, but is in the 18 plus series. This is the Crocodile Locomotive, a large train set at a very affordable price. I'm not going to lie, $100 for a train like this is actually pretty good. It's not motorized, and it doesn't advertise about motorization. Oh wait, it does advertise about motorization, but doesn't have like the appropriate track built into the set to do so. And people have also modified it even further just to make them more flowing. But I will say, okay, this is probably the latest of larger adult-oriented train stuff that they've done. Unless you count Lego City, they did 2 different kinds of powered-up trains in 2018. And I have one of them, the passenger train. It's great. And I think it's still fun for kids. It's still fun for adults. No problems with that. The fact that the Crocodile Locomotive exists as an 18-plus creator set, as opposed to an ideas set, gives me a little more confidence that this thing is too much. Lego Ideas has not had, I can now say, Lego Ideas has not had a train set. And this project did not make it through even as a train set. It leads me to believe it might be at a difficult stage. If it does make it as a project, kudos to those who appreciate it. Kudos to those who support it. But don't be alarmed when you see it with a high ticket price. Because this current stage of it is a lot. And I don't know if it would actually get modified from that stage. But in its current form, this is overtly, like, it's incredible. It's something I can appreciate. as a model, but I'm terrified of it as a product. It's not, no LEGO Ideas set has gotten to this kind of size, as far as I recall. And I don't think this is, I don't know exactly how this would work. Mountain windmill. High in the Boreas Mountains, I hope I'm saying that correctly, built between the two tallest peaks, stands the windmill. How the windmill came to be there, its purpose, and who inhabits it, I'm guessing, is a mystery. Now, this one does look like a very nice, organic-looking set. I think this one is a very nice model. I should have said model instead of set. It's not a product. It is still in the test building stage. It's got potential. It's got some creativity. I do like the structure of it, because it could have easily just been on one rock face, but I do like the branching over, rooms to it. It reminds me of the old fishing store, which is a pretty big LEGO Ideas set, but still reasonable. It reminds me of the old fishing store in the design and the architecture of it, but being geared towards a windmill, almost, mountainous vibe to it. I don't want to call it castle, because you could treat this outside of the castle realm easily. But you could also gear it for the castle realm if you wanted to. So, I think this one looks lovely. It would be cool to see it as a set, but, again, time will tell. Science adventures. Join the scientists on their research adventures. The geologist explores the mountains to locate important minerals. It's really late now. And unravel blank, blank, blank. Now, this one has a cute premise. I definitely like it as it is, and I understand why it exists this way. LEGO Ideas has already passed through 2 projects in a similar style to this one. We've had a female scientist set, where it has 3 small vignettes on 6x6 plates similar to this, and they're all in their field with some of their equipment. Then we had the Women of NASA set, which also has 3 female astronauts and researchers. Each of them has a piece, like a different kind of display, but also still being respectable about, how they look, what kind of field they're in, what studies that they have, all the, material that goes with it in a smaller package. And it makes sense that they would try this again. But I don't know if it's the same person for any of these, but kudos to them for trying another variant. This is basically the female scientist set part 2. If you scope over the Women of NASA and how the design changes a bit for that one, but in the same vein as that. And I think there's still potential for this one. I think this one is still fascinating for what it is and what it could do for other people. I do find it interesting that they're not all female, that there is actually a male figure that you have in the back. And I also do like that there is an animal build with this one, that it incorporates something different than just a display piece. Arguably, you have the same thing in the female scientist set with the T-Rex, which is a really cute T-Rex. I love the fossil design of that one. But yeah, this works out very nicely. I will say, right off the bat, based on the render, and I'm sure the pieces are varied, those coins are not going to be in the final product. LEGO does not make coins like those anymore. If they did, they would be 1x1 studs, or tiles, or whatever you want to call them. But regardless, this seems fine. This seems suitable. And it also seems, much like the other ones, affordable. Way more affordable, low bar, and more appealing to a different bracket. Retro bowling alley. This retro bowling alley is heavily inspired by Googie architecture, and I'm not familiar with that, and includes some modern updates such as an arcade, a vending machine, and blank. Again, this one is really nice looking. I love the look of this thing. If this was at a show, I would gush all over it. And I would love to see the inside, and I would love to see the minifigures bowling, and I would love to see everything about it. I grew up with bowling. I played bowling in high school, varsity bowling for a little bit, but mostly junior varsity, but still. No, wait. Strike that, reverse it. I played junior varsity for a little bit, and in high school. Either way, this thing terrifies me. A thing at this size is, again, trying to emulate the modular scale, but it's massive for a single product. Even to put this in perspective, between this and the train station, a full designer program sets from 2018 could go up in piece count, but I don't remember them having as wide a reach as much as these do. Like the actual physical space taking up. But I think these are still high up there for piece count compared to other things. I mean, even compared to some of the ones that were accepted. But I still appreciate this one as a model. And again, would love to look through this at a later time. BrickWest Studios. Welcome to BrickWest Studios. Here you can become a true film director, actor, makeup artist, or any other job in the cinema world. There's not a lot to glean from this one on the studios aspect of it, but I still appreciate that. The filmmaking part of Lego is very brief, but still very fascinating, and it's nice to see that this is someone trying to recapture that and maybe improve on it. But you also have the aesthetic of what you're actually looking at here. It's a Wild West saloon. Again, a thing that could be very appealing for people who missed out or want to see more or more recent versions of Wild West stuff. I didn't mention it earlier, but we did also see Wild West stuff in the Lego movie, where there were basically reconstructions of existing things like a bank or a saloon or something. You couldn't take those parts and build them back into those models. You'd have to basically make your own. But I still appreciate that there was some Western aesthetic incorporated in, especially when you had an entire venue for it in the first movie. So it's cool. But I'm not entirely sure, again, by the scale and size of this thing, how it would fare. Again, just like the last one and the ones before, it seems like most of these are in the test building stage. Ruined House. Hello, everybody. I am glad to be on the BrickLink Designer Program with my ruined house, which refers to a rural house featuring an old, battered blank. I love the look of this thing. As somebody who watches videos of people who do explorations, urban explorations. I do not do them myself for safety reasons, but I am still interested in seeing places like this near me, abandoned places that have, disheveled looks to them. It's great. It's a phenomenal thing, and I think there's an art to making something look worn. There's an art people definitely like the clean look. People like something that's pristine and complete, symmetrical, and, fills all the gaps and everything like that. But I think there's also an art to making that organic deterioration to anything. But houses are definitely a good subject for that, and it shows very well on here. Again, my props to... This is the kind of thing that if I saw it at a show, I'd be gushing over this for a while. I wouldn't just pass it by right away. I'd be like, this is awesome and I need to see more about it and really take in what I'm looking at here, because it really does, it almost creates a story on its own of how things have happened and how it became this way. That said, massive model. I don't know how to treat that. And I've literally beaten the dead horse reason of why I'm scared of that size and piece count. But I still appreciate it. Working waterfall. A unique mechanism simulates the flow of a real-life waterfall by transporting studs in a continuous cycle through a lake, cave, mine, and mountain. that's a cool idea. I like the thought that this is a working, moving waterfall. I've actually tried something like this myself many years ago. I want to say around 2015. But not to this caliber. Not to the scale of it. Not to the amount of detail and rock work and organic look to it. But I still like it. I still really appreciate this thing. It has a miniature scale to it, which I want to say is smaller than minifigures, which is fine. I have no worries about that. Much like other things where it's like, it might be larger than minifigures, you know? That's fine. No problem. I would like to see this one in working form, and I hope that the test building proves successful. Because when I had created mine, even if it was on a smaller scale, even if it was on a smaller parts budget to it, it had problems very frequently. I had a chain link that went around on a gear rack, but the chain link was just finicky enough where it became a problem. It had it had so much tension built up that it was easy for it to snap off, and I had to reset the whole thing. There were also pieces on the ends of the chain link that tried to simulate the water that were also they weren't put on very well. And I had to fix those on occasion. And sometimes the two problems would happen simultaneously. And there's a reason why I don't have that project, or the reason why I don't have that model brought to displays and LEGO conventions anymore. It had a very short life because of all these frustrations. Could I do a better job of it nowadays? Probably. Could I do it in a different form? Absolutely. But for right now, I like where this is going. I hope that everything goes well with this one. I would like to see more about it, even in the in a testing phase, or the initial project for it, and hopefully this runs through, but also runs through itself. Seasons and Time Calendar. This functional calendar allows you to change the day, date, and month. Plus, it comes with seasonal and holiday specific vignettes to place on top of it. This is a cute idea, and LEGO is no stranger to making different kinds of calendars, but they usually involve a lot more taking apart and building back together. So this one being a little bit more of a almost knob-turned setting thing is pretty cool. And again, I hope this one works. I hope this one does well. It's got a lot of neat little vignettes to go with it, because I could have easily seen this being like, oh, you just make 4 of them for the 4 seasons of the year. But no, they incorporated specific things like Valentine's Day, or they have a birthday in there, which is cool on its own for any time of year. They have the Chinese New Year in there, so there's a Christmas display. So there's much to respect about this one, on the variety that's available, the customization that it can do, that you can theoretically use this all year round. Clockwork Aquarium. Gaze into the exciting underwater world with this wonder-filled dynamic fish aquarium. This one I can tell that there's a crank on the side of it in order to move the fish back and forth. I want to see the function for this, and I might have actually watched this one before, or maybe I watched someone else's. But I'm curious about this one. Again, I like my underwater stuff. I like my fish stuff. I like my aquariums. So having a functional LEGO fish aquarium, it's actually something that's been sitting in my mind for a long time, but never being sure of how to actually pull it off. Especially, something of this scale. I would have gone bigger and probably more convoluted and complicated. So, yeah, I'm hoping we'll win this one. I think all these have some... Oh, okay. This is a little bit crossing back into the too big for its bridges side of things. Exploratorium. Be it heavens above or oceans deep, no mystery is too remote for science. I love the aesthetic of this thing. I like the color scheme that goes in this thing. I like that it has a steampunk feel, but also having a lot of classy look to it. But it's big. This is something that's like close to modular scale that I want to say, given that it's not a lot of height, but there's a lot of width. But there's not a base plate worth of depth. So I want to give it the credit that, okay, at least it's not entirely modular scale, but it still has a lot going on. There's still a lot of pieces that go into this thing, and it's definitely cool and has probably the potential for a lot of areas to explore. I already see some Lego pieces in here that are out of production, so I don't know if they would actually go through in that aspect of it, or that might just be a note for the test building where it's like, we have to replace this with something else because we don't make this piece anymore. It's cool for the render of it, and I'm sure that by having the real pieces, which are only in like a handful of colors, and one of them not even this color, it could still look nice. But again, it's the kind of thing that might be too big to qualify. And there might be too much of it going on here. Too much to put together and move around compared to other ideas projects and other designer program projects to work with it that way. Modular Lego store. You know what? No surprises. Another modular in here. Your chance to add a Lego store to your modular collection is here. This store comes with a pick-a-brick wall and fully openable storage room. I wonder what the storage room is like. Having worked in a Lego store myself, even though it's not of the same kind of grandiose that this one has, I'm still curious as to what they come up with for stockroom stuff, for anything that's in the back of the house. I think it still has a great look to it. Obviously, we have the modular scale to go with it. And again, I'm leaning into the I'm not sure if this is going to work kind of thing. For perspective, Lego released the Sesame Street set several months back. And that one, while it does have several buildings and a street to, interact with, is not modular scale. And it might be just under modular part count or like average part count. So not entirely sure on that one. I have seen people turn other Lego store sets into modulars. So it doesn't, it is nice of trying to have one that's just right out the gate already the modular stuff. But it wouldn't worry me if this thing didn't pass, because it's still possible in other ways, in other forms, using existing Lego sets to modify them into this kind of thing. Outside of every one of these if it doesn't exist, you can make it thing I said earlier. Oh boy. I'm going to have this a whole bunch of times, aren't I? I already have. Venetian houses. One generally sits far too seldom at the sea. Wait, I read that wrong. One generally sits far too seldom at the sea. This double modular size model. Alright, that's your first problem. Double modular size. If Lego was willing to put out a double modular product, they already have. And even when they did, that was kind of a significant kind. The Assembly Square, which is actually still available, released in 2018, if I recall correctly, or maybe it was close to that year, as a commemorative set. It's still publicly available, sure, but the reason why it's bigger in size and chooses certain aesthetics is to commemorate the 10 years of Lego modular products in the creator line. Some of the early ones that were fan-made, up to the ones that are fully done in-house designed. However, even that one being at a larger than modular size, more than one base plate, it was only 1.5 base plates. This one is double. This one is 2 full, big old base plates. That's a lot to ask. And even if you're doing it in a limited run capacity, which I'm also gonna say for all these other ones that I've critiqued for their large size, even if you're doing it in a limited run, 3,000 copies to 5,000 copies capacity, that's a lot of brick. And that's a hefty price tag. You're talking about something that's nearly $300 at this size. I'm not even kidding. A modular building traditionally goes over $150. It could go 160, 170, almost 200. Something like this couldn't lean above 200 easily. Maybe even 250. That's why I'm afraid of even thinking about the train station further, because the price tag on that, in its current form, I don't know how many people are going to buy that, even at the thousands mark. Okay. Sorry. Winter Chalet. I don't know if I'm pronouncing chalet correctly. A typical chalet with a restaurant on the ground floor and bedrooms upstairs. It encompasses the magical Christmas and rustic mountain atmosphere. Again, a fine-looking model, lots of intricate detail. You got the weather that adds onto the house. You've got the spirit of the season all throughout, different decor. It's not a modular by the base plate size of it, but it's pretty big. I think this is passable. It's more palatable than some of the other ones, but still big for its size. I mean, I'd say maybe this is close to the Forestman Castle that is already accepted and already sold out. And that, I think, would be fine. So, I can see that one. I also wonder on the legality of things, if any of these aren't picked, like even the ones that we saw earlier, if they aren't picked, are the creators allowed to distribute the parts count and instructions? Like things that they had already developed for that mock, you know? It's like, okay, it's not officially a product, and I'm not making, and I could make money on this on my own because it's my creation. And it's not, a stolen design from Lego. I don't know for sure, but I'm, again, curious. Quest Builder. Welcome, Quest Builder. Sorry, it just hit me right now. I am glad you found your way to this fantasy set with a multitude of options. So this looks like a Lego Dungeons & Dragons kind of feel, or some kind of board game similar to that. I do like what's going on here. I do like what's happening. Lego has done this in the past. They have done Lego board games several times. They have done some with the Rose Art era. They've done some in 2010, where it's more customizable. They had a series of them called Heroica, which has this fantasy era style of board game play. This one is now upgrading it with minifigure scale, whereas that one didn't have minifigures. So I will give it credit for that. There's also fully fleshed out rooms, whereas the other one didn't have as much enclosure to anything, even if it was a smaller scale. So I don't know how far you want to take this one. It's still big. It still has a lot of pieces from what I can tell. Looking at one piece and then looking at the rest of it, seeing that there's a lot to build. But it's unique. It's very unique on the premise of it. It's not a thing that Lego currently does. They don't have any current role-playing board game things like this in their, on the market. So I'm skeptical about this one, but it would be neat. It's not an awful idea. It definitely has some cool things to it. Modular construction site. Do I need to say it? Do I really need to say it again? I know, I'm tired of saying it. No Lego city is complete without a building site. That is true. A lot of people like to add construction into there. Another chance for you to own the set, combining the core Lego themes of modulars and construction. Construction sets are fun. Construction sets are fun when Lego brings them around in Lego City. They don't happen often, but when they do, it's cool. You're talking about a nearly full Lego modular building that is definitely larger than on the base plate, and a fully functional crane. because I can see by the thread on it, this has got to be an actual working crane. Even if it's a crank. Not an actual motor, but some way of moving the winch. Either one of these would be a hard option in my book compared to everything I said before. To have both of them here is a nice compromise of things, but is not the kind of thing I would expect going through. It would be nice if LEGO made another tower crane like this, because they haven't done one in a long time, and I do remember that they made an extremely long one many years ago. This one's a lot more conservative, and I do like that. But this is a lot to ask for. And, cherry on top, I can't tell if the outside of the building is sand blue or light bluish gray. But I'm led to believe it's probably sand blue. That's a lot of sand blue. LEGO hasn't made a lot of things with that much variety to sand blue in one set. Also part of the hard sell. Trying to imagine from the other idea sets and the other things we've seen so far. Anato Mini. Are you up for a surprising and educational building challenge of 3,000 pieces? Display me as a maxi figure or turn the wheel to learn more about me. So this one has a small wheel that can turn. It separates it left and right and has a skeleton built inside. I think this is a really cool model. I think it looks really nice. I think it's a fun concept. But 3,000 pieces? Again, I don't remember. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I'm gonna look up LEGO Ideas sets, and I'm going to find out if there is a LEGO Ideas set around 3,000 pieces. I know the old fishing store has a lot, but I don't think it breaks 1,000 or it doesn't break it by much. Oops. Scrolled down too far. Okay. I'm going to sort by number of pieces descending. So the largest LEGO set in piece count is the grand piano. And the grand piano has 3,000, it jumped because of these ads, 3,662 pieces. I stand corrected. And arguably I stand corrected for a lot of the modular comments I made earlier. That being said, these are very intricate modulars, and they are going to have a lot of pieces anyways. So, if you're going to go on that merit, if you're going to go on that metric, yes, this is possible. And some of the other ones are possible. I'm still skeptical about the train station, though. Mountain View Observatory. Unfortunately, due to the high complexity of this project, it will no longer be included in Round 1 crowdfunding. It will be available for crowdfunding in another round, I assume is the next word. But take a look at that. Too complex. And compared to the other ones that we have, that's saying something. If this one is considered too complex for early on, and it no longer... If it gets rejected from other rounds later, you're going to see a lot of other ones we saw earlier get wiped out. People love their modulars, yes. People love building new kinds of modulars, yes. People love more variety of modulars, yes. LEGO only releases one modular per year, yes. And this program would probably be an exception to that because it's a limited run. Probably. But the problem with the modulars is that you could still build this. You could still build any modular on your own, same as any other model, incorporate it into your city, and enjoy it. If you really want to share the instructions with other people, you can. I've seen someone take the Disney castle and restructure it into a Toy Store modular. I'm not even joking. That is really a thing. Instructions, people buy them up. They'd probably buy another version of the Disney castle if it was on the market. Just to do that. Or take the one that they already have and incorporate it into that. And there are extra pieces they need to buy, as far as I know. It's interesting that there's still a craze for it, and maybe I'm not, like, I sort of understand it because I've been interested in modulars before. I have only a few of them. I've wanted the detective's office, but missed my opportunity in 2018 to get it. And I haven't seen it since then. Cheaply, or, reasonably. Okay. I'm glad we went through all those. I know that we've already taken almost 2 hours. 105 minutes, so yeah, almost 2 hours. But this was something interesting. This was an interesting program. It's an interesting opportunity. It's interesting of how things are playing out. And that's the part of it that I personally look into when it comes to LEGO information. It's how they handle themselves. It's what products that they are willing to put out there, yes. It's what methods in which they, share those products or advertise those products, yes. But it's also the intricacy of it, How many are made? How do you get one? How is it available? How soon can you get one? This program by itself spawns a lot of those questions, answers a lot of them in ways that I haven't seen in many other LEGO strategies. And the fact is, I'm definitely curious about this to at least keep watching it, even if I don't pick up something. Regardless of whatever the bank issues, whenever those get resolved, assuming that, even if I don't have another set that I would want to get, or there's ones that I miss the opportunity to get, I still find that a fascinating process. Separate from what LEGO has done traditionally, and what they've done more, more recently with ideas itself. Then there's LEGO Forma, which apparently they're not doing again. LEGO Forma existed. They had a few products through there. Some people do own them. I have seen them in person. I do not own any of them. That was another crowdsourcing opportunity, but in a different way. It was LEGO presenting a product that they created in-house, seeing if there was enough interest to make it a real thing, and carrying on from there. But it sounds like they didn't carry that far. Whereas this one is more geared towards the fans. They are reaching out for the fan designs and testing them to their standards and seeing, okay, do we want to back this up with the parts and shipping to make this available for people. I am interested in that part. This is the kind of stuff that Bizarre LEGO would feast upon. But I'll get more into that sometime later. Anyways, it's late. I understand that this is a long video. I totally understand if people just skim through this or they only watch to a certain point. I did have a big rant in there, but I wanted to make it very important. I wanted to make it important that this was a golden opportunity, that this was something that we were not, deserving to get. This was not something that LEGO owed us to get for any given project, for any of this whole program, for any of it. It's a blessing. It's a something that deserves gratitude no matter what the result is. The fact is, this happened. This is an opportunity. This is a chance. This is something that could have easily been brushed or easily could have, been overlooked. So hopefully I hear more about this and all those questions I had earlier about, how this all came together or how it's going to go forward and everything like that. Even about the modular complaint that I had, you know, let's, like with all things, let's just hope for the best. And if something doesn't happen, if something isn't created, you do it yourself. Even if it takes a little bit more time, you're going to have the satisfaction of building it yourself. I know because I'm in the middle of 3 or 4 projects for Brick Fair, Virginia. So inside of a month, I have a lot of work to do. Thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day. And take care. Peace, love, and fun. I haven't said that in a while.